Oh, man. Woo! Man, you guys are in luck today. I have special guest star Keas, the K in the Back Talk Brothers. Keas, what is up, brother?
Hey, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
Man, oh, God. Hey, man, thanks for coming on. I'm pretty excited. This is a big week in the NFL. A lot of big games. Unfortunately, a lot of injuries. Star players being injured. A lot of craziness that's happened. We even had a few trades that happened earlier today. But I kind of want to kick off with what I thought was maybe the biggest game in the AFC. At least I thought it was the biggest game in the AFC. Maybe not the biggest game in the NFL. I think that was Cowboys 49ers. But I want to talk about the game in London. Bills, Jaguars, real big game. Surprise win by Jacksonville. At least it was a surprise to me. I had the Bills winning and covering the spread. So I was 6-8 against the spread, 8-6 during the week. But if you watch my picks video, which is below, I'm guaranteed to do better this week. Guaranteed. I want to get your opinion of the Bills-Jags game, Keas. I mean, was this as big of a game to you as it was to me? Was this like the biggest game in the AFC this week, or?
Yeah, it's interesting because Jacksonville was your pick, right? Like they were your pick, and Trevor Lawrence was your MVP pick, and you picked against them.
Oh yeah. I mean, I really thought I did a power rankings video, and my new power rankings video is going to come out tomorrow. But I had the Bills as the highest ranked team in the AFC. They're number 3 overall. And then losing to Jacksonville, now I kind of got to reevaluate things in the AFC. Right. And I got to reevaluate on two different ends. I mean, is Jacksonville a threat to be the best team in the AFC? Was this a fluke game because it's a London game? Are the Bills still the best team in the AFC? Are they? Or let me rephrase that, because I think we both agreed Chiefs are the best team. We'll talk about that. Are they still the team to beat in the East?
Yeah, I mean, how many hours did we spend talking about what the Bills were going to be and the AFC East was going to be? It's week 6 now, right? Yeah. We're moving into week 6. I don't think we still have a great idea of what a lot of teams are. It's, on the one hand, like I was joking around with you, you had Jacksonville as kind of a big dog in the AFC this year. Mm-hmm. And you started to call the Bills the best team. I think we might say the Bills and the Chargers have the best rosters in the AFC. As far as like the most cumulative talent, I think is on those two teams. I think that's what we would agree on. And then, we had some question marks about the Bills. I still have question marks about the Bills. I think what happened was we saw the Dolphins put up 70, and then we saw the Bills play the Dolphins and really stymie them. And I think that kind of made us, or at least me, kind of pause and be like, well, maybe the Bills are more legit than I was giving them credit for, but I'm still not sure yet, and I think moving forward, we got to see how that team responds to the injuries that they've had. But, I think we were both big on Jacksonville. Anytime you see the difference of, Doug Peterson's now had a whole year to correct over Urban Meyer's coaching. He did great. He did great last year.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a Sean Payton, Nathaniel Hackett thing. he actually did great last year. We saw a huge jump, and they made that trade for Ridley, even though he couldn't play. And so like I said, preseason, I expected that to be a big addition to this offense. They've figured out, what to do with Evan Ingram, and actually make him into a weapon where the Giants couldn't. And we've seen ETN and I'm still not 100% sold on the defense yet. I think the offense will be there by the end of the year. The defense might be there by the end of the year. And you might say the offense is already there. I'm kind of judging it by the Kansas City game. But, some of that isn't fair because Kansas City's pass defense, for the most part, looks legit. And it's going to add Charles Omenihu to even strengthen that pass rush even more to help out the secondary. So.
No, yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying. When I watched the Bills Jags, it really looked like to me Buffalo had the better team, and they got down. They were playing very uncharacteristic football. But when Milano went down, it really, like, you could see the body language of the Bills players visibly affected. Now, this is why I don't play Madden. Like, Milano's not a guy who's, if you're playing Madden, is going to have like a 99 rating or anything like that. But he's somebody who means a lot to that Bills team. He's a very important part. He's a key cog in that defense. And when he went down, you could really, you could almost see a shift. But my boy UCF Jaguar, he put out a video saying we own the Bills. And I was like, hold up here, because he also had a video where Jags fans were getting ready or jumping off the building when they lost by 20 to the Texans at home. They were 1-2. They won 2. And then he had video out earlier today saying, NFL, watch out. And it's like, well, I don't know, man. I mean, come on. Your guys are jumping off the building 2 weeks ago. And it's kind of interesting here because the Chiefs have a nice 4-game stretch. Then they have a bye. A couple weeks after the bye, we're going to play Buffalo for what looks to be a very, very big game. If 2 weeks ago they lost Tre'Davious White, they lost Daquan Jones and Milano. With those injuries piling up, do you think that that's enough? That, like, Buffalo's may not be the team in the East. Is Miami now the team in the East that we have to worry about? They're 4-1, just like Kansas City. There's only 2 4-1 teams in the AFC. It's Kansas City and Miami. Are we seeing like a power shift bounce? Is it too soon? I mean,
I'd almost say both. I think we agree. Milano is an absolute dude. Like, he's good in coverage. Last couple of years, I think they've used him more as a blitzer, and he's been effective as a blitzer. He is just everywhere. So I'm interested in seeing that rematch against the Dolphins if Milano is not out there, because I think he's that big of a difference maker. I think he was that big of a difference maker in the first game. That, I do. I think we've seen the Bills without White now, quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so, we've seen them without all their great pass rushers. We've seen them without White. We've seen them without their great safeties. They looked really ugly in that Bengals game, having lost their safeties. I think they can still overcome most teams without Milano, but I think when you get to like a Dolphins or a Chiefs, some of these teams that are the upper echelon, if you want to throw the Jags in there, I think that's where you're going to see the big impact of Milano not being out there if he can't be out there. So for me, that's the biggest, probably the biggest loss for those. If Poyer and Hyde are out again at any point, I think it makes it really hard for them to win. But I think they can win against a lot of teams without Milano simply because of the offense and the pieces they still have left on the defense. And McDermott's a good coach. I just don't know that they can win against, the other big dogs in the AFC without Milano out there.
I mean, the good news is that they play Miami the last week of the season. So it's a good chance. Milano and Daquan Jones, who were injured in the game, it's not season-ending injuries, but there's no timetable for them to return. So it's going to be a struggle for them to get back. Let me ask you this here. I actually, before I go into more detail about this, because I do want to touch base. I thought that was a really big, important game in AFC. I want to read some comments here. One Pride 40, hail to the Kings in the North, with the exception of Chicago winning. And I don't know if you're a Lions fan or you going, oh no, we got to worry about the 1-win Bears now. Everything that could happen good to the Lions did happen good. I mean, you couldn't plan a better week for the Lions. I mean, you really couldn't. Chiefs took care of business. Justin Jefferson's on IR. We're gonna talk a little bit about that. Drawing a blank here. The Packers lost on Monday night. I want to ask Keys' opinion about that here in a bit, but I want to touch a little more. I want to talk a little more about Jags and Bills, but I mean, you're up by 2 games to Green Bay, a team that you already beat in Lambeau. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous how there's just so much of a chasm between the Lions and every other team in the North, man. Hey, One Pride, thanks for asking, and we're doing good. Oh God. My girl, Cheryl. Unfortunately, she's married. No, her husband's a great guy. Cheryl's here. Cheryl gets lots of love. One Pride 40 says something very interesting. Your defense is awesome. The offense is the concern. One Pride, I get that, but we put up 27 with Kelsey banged up. Mahomes got a little dinged. Young receiving core. I know me personally, I'm not that concerned about the offense, but let me ask another Chiefs fan right here, my special guest star Keas. Keas, man, One Pride 40 says the defense is awesome, but our offense is concerning, man. I mean, I can rant here for a while here, but man, why don't you take over here? What's your opinion?
Yeah, I don't know what the points per game is for the Chiefs, but, I do know we had kneel downs. I do know we pulled starters in the Bears game in the 7 minutes left in the third quarter. We weren't like the Dolphins leaving Tua in there at the beginning of the fourth. So, I mean, we could run up points per game, but, the first week you don't have Travis. The second week, Travis is, what would you say, Dan? Maybe 30%? 40, maybe 50% if you want to be super optimistic.
Yeah, I would say maximum 70. I mean, it's really hard to say. I mean, I will say this. Week 2 and after he had that ankle injury, I'm not sure which one he would have been better, because I think One Pride comment, he thought it was an ACL. I'm like, no, it looks like an ankle injury, but I don't think he's going to come back. And he had that touchdown late, but I mean, he didn't look good in either Jacksonville or in Minneapolis at all.
Yeah, that's what I say. Like, I think for that Jags game, I would say he was maybe 40%. I actually nailed the low ankle sprain. My wife can confirm it. I told her, I said, that's a low ankle sprain. Which, we'll see. I don't know if they will. Well, I'm not going to say they would rush him back or not rush him back. I think they're really just going to put it in the hands of, they trust their training and medical staff, and they probably don't trust Travis or Pat when it comes to injuries to to be honest with them, but they trust the training staff and the medical staff. I wasn't expecting him to go on Thursday, but we'll see, because you never know with this. But the whole point was, I am certain that the plan was always for Travis to be the training wheels for this offense, while the new offensive tackles got acclimated, got on the same page with the offensive guards, got on the same page, learning Pat's drops. Like, we forget Orlando Brown Jr., yes, I didn't call him by his correct nickname, got excuse after excuse for getting acclimated with Pat and his drops. Even into his second season, people were still giving him that excuse. So why aren't we giving that excuse to our new offensive tackles 5 games into the season? And it wasn't just, it's 2. It's offensive tackles, one on each side. We didn't have that, when Orlando was here. And so, there's that aspect to it. Juwan Taylor didn't get any penalties in this game. So, there's a bright spot there. But I think that Travis was always meant to be the training wheels, while the young receivers got things figured out. As we're used to Spags kind of experimenting with his players to figure out who can do what. Then the bye week comes, and then you see him utilize his players that way. The defense gets a lot better. My argument is that's what we're seeing out of the offense this year. Andy and Matt are seeing what receivers can do what they can do well, what they can't do. They're just kind of experimenting right now. So in a way, One Pride is right that the offense is our concern, but we're still 4-1. We lost the one game by 1 point without Travis and without Chris Jones. And at the end of the day, it's kind of, I see the offense. Let me just say this. If after 1 or 2 games after the bye week, the receiving room looks the same as it does right now, then I'm 100% with them that the offense is a concern. But we've kind of even seen this with the vets that we had, right? Last year and the year before, most of the season, even when we had Juju, it just kind of looked like the offense had been out of sync, for games, this game or that game, to where people really believed that Eric Bieniemy was game planning and calling some games. Andy was game planning and calling other games, because it was like a Jekyll and Hyde offense. And so I don't think this is, one, I don't think it's anything new, but 2, you got all these young receivers. I'm expecting them to be there after the bye week. And, like I said, you're adding Amenahue to the defense. And as long as you can stay healthy, I think that the defense is going to be even greater towards the end of the season. And you're going to see that offense be right back up there. I think it's, by the numbers, I think they're still a top 5 offense as they are right now with all the issues they have. So for me, as long as what I expect to happen is what happens, I think that's only going to make them harder moving forward. But we kind of thought that, except for we thought the defense was going to take more time. Just kind of like we thought that the Lions defense was going to need to take more time. And then week 1, both defenses look good. So
I said that One Pride. The one thing I will say that's disappointing about the Chiefs offense is I bought into a lot of Sky Moore hype this offseason. I'm racking my brain. I'm not even sure he had a catch. I know he had a jet sweep end around, but I don't know if he had a reception in the game. But him, Rashee Rice, and Justin Ross, I'm fully expecting to get better as the season goes on. One Pride 40, the Chiefs have a very interesting 4-game stretch before the bye. The next 4 games, 3 are against division opponents, and we go out to Germany to play what might be the game of the year on the AFC side, where we play the Dolphins. Oh man, look at this here, Keys. Look at this. Gooch, the talent, the B in the back. Or how many nicknames does Gooch have? We got Talent, Champ. I think there's one more, and then he's still the B in the back top. Man, what a treat to have Gooch in here, man. I want to touch base on some of One Pride's comments. And One Pride, I'm going to go out of order on your comments, but I want to touch all of them here because this really caught my eye, and that's why I want to go out of order. Because I want to get Keys' opinion on this before I give you mine here. Do you think you guys are in the trade market for a wide receiver? And in case you didn't know, Van Jefferson was just traded to the Rams, to the Falcons, which I think is a win for both teams. Of course, I'm going to butcher the name here. Nuka, maybe rookie of the year for the Rams since he's come on. Van Jefferson's expendable. Van Jefferson reunites with Kyle Pitts, both of them University of Florida guys. Don't tell Denver Gator he has a real issue with Florida players, doesn't like them for whatever reason. It's really weird. Kind of a win-win for both teams, at least in my opinion. So we already had one that happened earlier today. So Keys, what do you think, man? Are the Chiefs in a? Yeah, I'm butchered that name, One Pride. Yeah, but Keys, are we in a market for a wide receiver?
First off, One Pride, you got to give him credit for at least remembering the name. So, but yeah, if Dan just sticks with baby, he can.
I was going to go with
remember
baby.
it. But I don't think so, and I do think that adding him to the Falcons, someone needs to free Kyle Pitts. But and that's a different story because he asked about wide receiver, not tight end, which could make more sense with Travis. Again, I said the hyperextension of the knee is kind of a fluke injury. The ankle sprain was another fluke injury. Jefferson slipped and fell on that Minnesota turf as well. There was a little bit of slippage on that, and so another fluke injury, but still, as Dan keeps saying, Travis is 34. Did he just turn 34, 35?
Yeah, 34.
He just had his birthday.
Yeah.
And
Travis share a birthday. He got Taylor Swift and I got a chair. It's almost. I'm wondering which one had the better birthday.
Yeah, but I think the easy answer is no. The only receiver that the Chiefs could basically trade for and get any kind of payoff, in my opinion, would be trading for McCole Hardman back. But I don't even want to go there. I don't think that move does enough with the pieces that they already have. But even bringing in a vet, and Juju was a vet. Juju said himself last year, it took a lot of studying for him to get that playbook down. It was a lot of work. We're 6 weeks into the season now. You bring in a vet, he's not just going to be, and we've seen this as Chiefs fans, time and again in this offense. It doesn't matter whether it's a vet or rookie. A vet has a few steps up for a lot of obvious reasons, but it's still hell to learn this playbook. If he was a great route runner and he already did all those things, great. It still would take weeks just because of the playbook. How much would he get in each week? Maybe you put him in 5 or 10 plays. Well, if you do that, it's probably going to be plays you're looking his way, and the defense is going to know that. And who's out there who's good enough that he's going to make an impact over the guys you already have. If you get a guy like that, you're going to be giving up a bit. And if you get, even so, again, the defense is just going to key on that guy. I think you got to do it in the off season, and I think you got to do it on a multi-year deal so that that you're really aiming for the second year if you're going to target a legit wide receiver in a trade.
No, I agree. I kind of forgot about Miracle Hardman because the rumors are the Jets are looking to move him just because he's not playing. The thing is, I don't even want to give up a 7th round pick for him. I really don't. And I say this because the Chiefs have hit on some of their 7th-round picks. Matter of fact, and I'm drawing a complete blank on his name, the kid out of Ball State, our 7th-round pick. He did have a penalty in the game, but I've heard good things about him, but he has played on special teams. I'm number 21. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. The kid out of Ball State. I actually wouldn't even want to give up a 7th-round pick right now for Miracle Hardman, but if he was released by the Jets, would I want to sign him immediately? Yeah, I would sign him, but that would be about it. So yeah, I'm on board with Keas. There's a reason why the Chiefs assigned veteran defensive players and not offensive players in the past, because the defense, despite some of the changes they made, it's a lot easier to be a veteran, come into Kansas City Chiefs defensive room than the offensive room.
Well, it helps that the coaching staff on the defensive side is actually veteran coaches, guys who know what they're doing. And it's not that the whole offense isn't that way, but Andy Reid believes, for whatever reason, that between himself and maybe one or two other coaches, that they bring guys up through the wide receiver coach position and the running back coach position. So guys, our current wide receiver coach never even played wide receiver. He was a running back in college. He never played in the NFL. He was on the defensive side for a few years, and then he was like offensive quality control or something for like a year or two, and then he got moved to wide receiver coach. And so, we have guys, and then the running back coach is what? Todd Pinkston. So NFL wide receiver, but he's being a running back coach. And Andy, works guys up the ladder, the coaching ladder, through those two positions. And then, I think moves them on to like assistant quarterback coach, and then whatever happens from there happens to the guys that show promise. So, but the defensive side, it's full of stud coaches basically. And so that's another big difference between the two.
Yeah, well, you're 100% right. It seems like what they want to do is that you get once you get like assistant quarterbacks coach, the way they've done it in the past is that if you're the quarterbacks coach, you have a step to either be an offensive coordinator with Kansas City, just like Nagy was, or you can move on to be an offensive coordinator somewhere in the NFL. By the way, your guy, Mark Brunell, who's your current quarterbacks coach, don't be surprised if he's an offensive coordinator for another team next year if he doesn't get signed as the offensive coordinator in Detroit, if Ben Johnson moves on to be a head coach. One Pride 40 says, how about them Packers? And Mad Max, yeah, he One Pride 40, you keep saying this over and over again, we look great in a Chiefs uniform, and I agree completely. I mean, he's just a dominant player, just a great player. But let me do this here. I'm going to ask Keas here. Are the Raiders, after that win, was that an impressive win for the Raiders? Was that disappointing for the Packers? Or were you kind of looking at that game and just going, Yeah,
I actually didn't get to watch it, but I think we kind of, maybe it was in the chat the other day, kind of talking about, you don't have Bakhtiari. That's a huge loss for the offense there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can the Packers actually still compete? I'm not sold. I haven't been sold. I was almost starting to get there on LaFleur and Love, but I'm still not sold on them. I'm
not sold on Love at all. I've never seen the appeal that of a first round pick, and
I thought they were the third best team in that division before the season started. And because the Bears are so bad, I still think they're the third best team in that division. And I don't care that the Vikings, are what, 1-4.
Yeah.
I still think, I think it's going to be harder now, obviously, without with Justin Jefferson out, however long that is. But, in that Chiefs game, I thought Addison looked good.
Yeah.
Powell looked good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously Hawkinson looked good. And so I think the pieces are still there for that offense. And sometimes when you have an injury like the Jefferson one, it really opens up a door for other guys to get valuable experience. So when that guy comes back, you know, now your wide receiver room is that much better for it. You know, your coaching staff has to adapt. You know, so they're kind of forced into some tricks that they weren't planning on doing or hadn't thought about doing if you have a good coaching staff. Um, but you know, even then, I mean, Kevin Kevin as a head coach, I have to be kind of hesitant. We talked about this during the live. He screwed up on his use of the challenge and timeouts, and that could have been a very different game at the end of the
Yeah.
game had he not. So
There's
I'm still
one.
taking them as the third team though, or second best team.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think they're the second best team in the North, and they'll turn some things around. But there was some idiot Vikings fan who put down that had a whole video about how the NFL's rigged because his Vikings lost, and you know nobody. The NFL did not plan for Justin Jefferson to get injured. By the way, that's an interesting story that you know I don't know how much detail because we have Keys on a time constraint, folks. So like you know Keys is going to do like about an hour and a half, and he's not going to stay with us all night, unfortunately. But Justin Jefferson did not get that big contract that he was looking for. Okay. After 4 weeks, let's say you're 2-6, you know, you're definitely not catching Detroit. Why, if you're Justin Jefferson or if you're the Vikings, do you really want him to come back and play in some meaningless games when you can't get to the playoffs, or do you just hold out? That's kind of an interesting story. I'm going to read some comments. One Pride. I'm not skipping this. I'm actually starring it, and I'm going to come back to it. If the Falcons, that's what I kind of thought they were doing this year, and their offense is still kind of struggling. But yeah, give Rashee Rice more targets. He's going to be really good, folks. It's just he did have a drop. Justin Ross had a drop. I don't know what the deal is with Sky Moore. He's a guy that I thought, yeah. Gooch brings up a great point here. Did I hear bring Miracle back after he got more money? No, thank you. Yeah. Gooch, I'll tell you this right now. I would not mind having him come back. I do not want to trade for him at all. Nick Jones, that's the 7th round pick out of Ball State. I finally remember the name. I would rather the Chiefs have a 7th round pick that they could roll the dice on than trade that pick and get McCole Hardman. And am I being too hard here? Am I because I mean, I wanted to like this guy, but he just never panned out. You know, am I just being too hard here?
Let's put it this way. I wouldn't even trade CEH to get Hardman back.
Oh my God. God.
You know, Gooch and we talked about this a lot of times. Like, it was so frustrating to see him. You would see other receivers in the offseason with Pat, you know, trying to get better, trying to get that chemistry, and you would see McCole, like, you know, off in Florida just screwing around. You know, there have been Chiefs fans who stood up for him time and again, and I'm just like, he was in a room that had Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Like, you're talking, you know, top 2 or 3 or 4 wide receiver, you know, top tight end. Like, you handcuff yourself to those guys and you pick their brains every day, and you move in, even if you have to crawl through, you know, even if you have to tunnel under the house and come in through the basement, but you move into Patrick Mahomes' house during the offseason if you want to be great. McCole Hardman has a lot of athletic talent, just in my view, is lazy. He doesn't have the work ethic. He doesn't have the drive to be great. And, I'm not surprised that he's not playing for the Jets. He probably doesn't know the offense, and he probably doesn't even know his quarterbacks' names if he saw their faces. Yes, that's hyperbole, and I'm being a little mean here, but it was just so frustrating because he obviously has the physical talent, and you got to take advantage. When you have a Travis Kelce, you got to take advantage and pick his brain and watch what he does and ask, hey, why did you do this on this play? When you have a Tyreek Hill, you got to ask him about, because, yeah, he's not the exact same, type of athletic talent, but, he still has speed in his game. And Tyreek went from what Jalen Ramsey called an all-pro returner to an all-pro receiver. So when you have those guys, you got to take advantage of it.
I'm gonna rant. I'm gonna piggyback on your rant. McCole Hardman, for those of you who don't know, he was a 5-star running back coming out of high school. If you're not familiar, a 5-star running back, there's anywhere between 20 and 40 of them. When you're a 5-star player, it means that you're an potential NFL first, second, or third rounder, and he was the second rounder. He was on the depth chart behind Nick Chubb, and I'm forgetting the other guy. He was a first-round pick for the Patriots and with the Rams. I'm drawing a complete blank on the guy's name. But basically, you're
Sony Michel?
Yeah, Sony Michel, yeah. So they had Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, and the next running back was going to be McCole Hardman. But then they ended up getting another 5-star running back by the name of DeAndre Swift, which forced McCole Hardman to move to wide receiver. Do you remember the incident where the reporter reported about Tyreek Hill and domestic violence turned out to be a false case and all that? What happened was the Chiefs panicked. They traded up in the second round, and they traded up to 50 to draft McCole Hardman. And I'm so mad because they also had another pick in the second round they used on a guy by the name of Juan Thornhill at pick number 63. So you have Miracle Hardman at 50, Juan Thornhill at 63. You know who pick number 64 was, Keys? DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf could have been a Chief. DK Metcalf would look really good in this Chiefs offense right now. But no, we traded up to get McCole Hardman, and I'm still mad about that. I'm still pissed about that. I'm still pissed at Juan Thornhill, who's not playing bad in Cleveland, but we could have had DK Metcalf, who would look great in a Chiefs uniform. So I'm still mad about that, and I didn't like it because McCole Hardman had a very similar background to Tyreek Hill. Former running back turned wide receiver. Did he put the work in that Tyreek Hill had? No, he didn't. And he's not the athlete Tyreek Hill is, but he's a good enough athlete that he should be a solid He should be a solid number 2 in the NFL. He really should be. Right. He really should be. He should be a solid number 2 wide receiver. He really should. Thornhill's a beast. He wasn't in Kansas City. He's playing really good in Cleveland. He wasn't a beast here in Kansas City.
He was kind of on the track before he got that injury. What was it, his second season?
Yeah, something like that.
And he got injured and missed like the whole season. But he was really starting to show flashes before that happened. But yeah, I like DK Metcalf because I like tall receivers with great speed. But his route tree,
yeah,
I understood why Andy was never going to draft a receiver like him. And, the thing about Hardman is I don't buy the theory that he was a Hill replacement. And part of that is for what we've already talked about, because you can't just draft a replacement receiver for the year you want them in an Andy Reid offense. You have to draft that receiver at least a year ahead of time. So, McCole was never, even if Tyreek had got suspended, McCole was never going to be able to just come right in and play in this offense to begin with.
Well, what the Chiefs wanted to do is they were going to have him be a return guy, and they were hoping that he would turn into be like a diet Tyreek Hill and then blossom and grow. But it never panned out. And I just think that was just the work ethic. I don't think he really wanted to put into work because he has the talent. And as far as
100%.
Thornhill being a beast, I get that. By the way, I don't think he was in Kansas City. He was just, to me, he was disappointing. But DK Metcalf would have been. I really wanted Metcalf, and I was hoping we'd get him at 50, and said we traded up for McCole Hardman. He had McCole Hardman, by the way, had like a 5th or a 6th round grade on him. He wasn't really the Chiefs reached, and then anyway, DK. Yeah, by the way, DK Metcalf after that combine looked like he was going to be a top 10 pick, and he lasted pick number 64. So, One Pride says, if I was a Packers fan, I would be furious. I'm really curious what they do because you have a hole at left tackle. I think you have a hole at quarterback, but that's debatable. I have no idea how you approach this offseason because if you're sold on Jordan Love, you got to take a left tackle. You absolutely have to at this point. But if you're not sold on Jordan Love, do you use this middle of the pack pick and draft your quarterback? Keys, what's your thought, man? I mean, am I 100% right again, or?
Well, I can't say yes because you said again, but I've already said I made it clear what my opinion of Jordan Love is. But yeah, if the Packers are sold on him, then yeah, you have to get that left tackle. But otherwise, I mean, I don't know, because you're definitely going to have competition there for left tackles, right? How many teams are going to need left tackles? That's what's going to make it harder for the Chiefs because they're going to need a left tackle. But if 6 or 7 teams also are supposedly getting a first round or quarterback, maybe things change. A lot of things are going to change between now and draft day. I know that much because it happens every year. Guys are going to rise during the Senior Bowl. Guys are going to fall. Guys are going to fall during the combine. They're going to, rise. We're going to have guys who get injured. Like we're going to have all these things. So it's hard to put a lot of stock in that. And we don't even know, we're just talking about the draft prospects. We don't even know what's going to happen with the rest of the Packers team. So,
no, I have no idea. It's going to be tough for the Packers because, like, I think you have a whole quarterback and I think you have a whole left tackle. And what do? You don't have 2 first-round picks. Can you trade? Do you want to roll the dice on a retread? Do you want to bring in a veteran? Do you want to bring in a guy like, okay, Bridgewater? I know he's a Lion now, but he signed a 1-year deal. That's going to be interesting. One Pride 40 says you hear the Broncos. That might be another guy. That would be kind
Kirk Cousins might get paid next year. Because I mean,
it might not be by
knows?
the Vikings either. Vikings.
If Aaron Rodgers isn't healthy, if you're the Jets and you're out of one of the top quarterback sweepstakes, do you make Kirk Cousins an offer? Some of these teams who really are, seem to be only a quarterback away. If you're the Broncos, do you make Kirk Cousins an offer? Like, I mean, there could be competition out there for Kirk Cousins, and it's really just going to depend on who wants to give him that 2-year fully guaranteed contract that he keeps getting, or whatever it is. I think it's like 2 years, right?
It's something
sounds like a 2-year fully guaranteed contract.
It's really weird. And what's really strange is that I remember when he was in Washington, he kept on, the same thing kept on happening. And I really got to wonder, because, you're not going to hear it publicly. And I haven't, even though I signed for Netflix like a couple weeks ago, I only watched like 1 or 2 episodes, that quarterback special. I got to wonder, is Cousins just an asshole? Because I know him and Mike Zimmer did not get along well. They had like some very famous big time knockdown, drag out fights. And Washington didn't want him at all for whatever reason. The only one that really wanted him was Shanahan. And of course, at the time he was forced to play Robert Griffin. But I just got to wonder, is he just like a complete dick in the locker room? He seems like a decent enough guy, but that's the only thing I could think of. This is an interesting comment, One Pride. You hear the Broncos are about to nuke their team. Man, Keys, what's your thoughts on this comment here?
I believe I said they should like a week or two ago, didn't I?
I think you did.
I think I said they should. Well, I think I also said the Chargers should, but part of that is because that's more of a wish. Because they still have the talent, and I don't want them to screw around and accidentally hire a competent head coach and start winning. So
that's kind of what I'm worried about.
So, as far as I'm concerned, the Chargers should be right there selling too. But I just think I think it depends on like who they want to be their quarterback, right? Because you don't want to end up in a Panther situation where you trade away your wide receiver just to be, out there now looking for a wide receiver to give your quarterback. And so, the Broncos have what? They have a stacked secondary and a stacked wide receiving core, right? Like that's my assessment of the Broncos. I
like their front seven, even though they've played awful. I mean, if you go, they got some good edge rushers. They got some good linebackers. They've lost some interior defensive linemen. I don't know how much of it's just not having the right, how much better would they be with I'll butcher his name, but Evero. Yeah, I think they would be a lot. I think they'd be a lot better if they would have kept Evero or Evero.
I 100% agree. I believe it's Evero.
Yeah. Evero. Yeah. They would be a better defensive front, but there's a lot to like about their defense. But I don't know, man. That's a good question.
Yeah, if they nuke it, I guess Sean Payton doesn't care because he's getting a lot of money either way. So, if you cut Russ early, you almost have to, because that dead cap is so huge, and the real money cash part of it, the ownership can swallow. They probably wouldn't like to swallow. They don't seem like the type who's going to endeavor into bad business practices, and that would be one of them. But you would almost have to, reset for a year and shed as much as you could, because they've shelled out way too much. They've overpaid in both draft compensation and money for both Russ and Sean Payton. But man, it would hurt because you have a lot of talent on the defensive side. That wide receiver room, when they're healthy, is a super talented group. It would just be hard.
I'll go on the flip side and discuss what could potentially happen if you do this. And I would look very carefully at the Philadelphia Eagles. Remember, they cut Carson Wentz. They promoted, at the time, it was a big risk, but Jalen Hurts. And they had to eat, I think it was like $50 million in Wentz's contract for 1 year. He went to play for the Colts. And the Eagles were able to recoup. Now, I think didn't the Eagles get a first-round pick out of that, if I'm correct? And they're still benefiting because they've made trades, and and teams are still giving them picks. They traded. I'm still mad that they were able to trade up one pick for a future fourth round and get Jalen Carter, who's looking awesome. But that's another story. Denver, if they do get rid of Wilson, they would have to cut some players, but could it be done? The Eagles weren't good right away. I think it took 2 years, and then boom, all of a sudden they're really, really good. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. One Pride. I really don't. They have a big game. Here's the deal. They have a big game this week against Kansas City on Thursday. 2 weeks they play the Chiefs, and let's just say the Chiefs sweep them just for fun, because they've done it the last 7, and the Chiefs have won 15 straight against Denver. So if you're 1-6 and you can't win with Russ, it makes sense, man. I mean, this is the draft to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you believe in it, if you look at just the defensive side, how many first round picks can you get for guys, on that roster? You're getting at least a 1+ for Sertan.
Oh God, yeah, and I agree. I agree with you. Sertan looked great in a Chiefs uniform. I mean, we got pretty stacked secondary, but Sertan's that's a special player.
You're getting a you're getting a probably a first, right, for Justin Simmons if you trade him.
Oh God, yeah, I would think so. I mean, you could trade both those guys and get a pair of ones, or worst case scenario, maybe a 1 and a 2. Or let's say you gave a couple twos, you may be able to get something back. I don't know. But both those guys are guys worthy of first round picks. One pride says that he's. I think the Packers defense is okay. They got some young talent. I think the only if I'm Green Bay, I'm like, this isn't the guy at quarterback unless there's you're blaming that young receiver, young tight end stuff. But I mean, I'll never forget. I think it was last year he came to Arrowhead and he didn't even look like he belonged in the NFL. I mean, he just looked the game just looked too much for him. So I don't know. Gooch says Denver. Oh yeah, they have a lot of guys that Denver's going to be an interesting team because if they pick high, and I do think they will, I think this is the draft you have to take a quarterback. If I'm Denver, I think you have to do it. And if you do stick with Russell Wilson, what else could you do? I mean, you got him the offensive line. You spent, what was it, 150 million to fix up the right side of the offensive line. You got him the coach. He's got talent. I mean, what the fuck else can you do? When the fuck do you just say, hey, look, Russ, congratulations, let's move on. Yeah, they got a couple players I wouldn't mind here in Kansas City. So to tell you the truth, as much as I would love to see Surtain in Kansas City, sending him to Detroit makes a lot more sense. And you would have to give up a lot. But I'll be honest, if I'm Denver, I would seriously consider it. Surtain's still on a rookie contract. Is that correct? He's still on a rookie contract, if I remember right. So, the Panthers GM need to get fired. He's screwing over Reich, and then Gooch says Reich's a damn good coach. It's kind of funny because last year the defense was pretty good, but the offense looked horrible. So they were convinced it was only the quarterback. And I don't know, man. I almost think that they made a mistake. I think they should help Wilkes, who's not doing bad as the 49ers defensive coordinator. I mean, maybe stay with Darnold. I don't know. I'm not sold on Bryce Young. I don't think he can last in the NFL. It's funny because I complain about his weight, but Anthony Richardson's 250 and he's already missed 3 games due to injury, and he's not playing next week against Jacksonville. Your opinion, Keys, man, is it the Panthers GM coaching? Is it because they look horrible right now?
Yeah, that's I would be there, but then you start talking about how the Colts look pretty good so far this year.
Yeah.
And so, there's part of me, it's like, I think we got to keep seeing, where things are going just so we can rule out that Frank Reich didn't have a bigger hand in kind of the sloppiness we saw there towards the end in Indy.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too. I think Reich, I think Reich has to take a little bit of blame because the defense looked good enough last year that they shouldn't be 0-5. But I mean, this is going to be a bad year, and the Bears get the first round pick. So I mean, I think it's a combination here. I think it's a combination of making a bad trade, but they felt like they had the guy, and I'm firmly convinced that Reich said, "Hey, I want Young over C.J. Stroud," and I know Gooch likes Young better than Stroud, but I C.J. Stroud was my quarterback number one, and I thought it was kind of a no-brainer. And I think you got a whiff on everybody here. As of right now, Carolina just looks like I think the technical term is shitstorm. So. Gooch says you draft a quarterback, you have to have him for 5 years. You keep Russ 2 more so the dead cap isn't horrible. Then you release him. I don't think so, man. I think you just take the loss, man. I mean, Philly did that with Wentz. I want to quote you as $52 million in dead cap money, and they still had to give a number one up to the Colts plus eat that. They ended up getting Hurts, and I think the Eagles, they can complain all they want, but it's they got to a Super Bowl. They're undefeated this year. What's happened with the Eagles organization's been a success since they got rid of Wentz. And I think if you're the Broncos, I think you have to do that. Even if you have to eat $50 million, I don't think you keep Russ at all. I think you just take the loss. I mean, and then, unfortunately, we're in a day and age that if you take a quarterback high, you got to play him. And I've never believed in that philosophy, but that's kind of the day that we're in. I mean, Keas, what's your opinion, man?
Yeah, I think that I hate to disagree with Gooch here, but unless you believe that your issue right now is Vance Joseph and or injuries, I think you have to. I don't think you can wait 2 more years, because you're wasting 2 years of Justin Simmons, Patrick Surtain, Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, and I know they have receivers they've lost to injury, but you can't waste all the talent around Russ for the next 2 years simply to save money. And I looked it up, and I think it's the dead cap. I believe if they post June cut them, it's somewhere around 35-40 million. That doesn't sound right. I'll look that up again, but I'm pretty sure that that's what I saw on there. And so in that case, I think you swallow it. You cannot waste those guys if you believe in any way whatsoever that Russ is the problem.
No, it's kind of funny because me and Keys are almost exactly on the same page, and Gooch is disagreeing with us. And you know what? Let's just use your number, Gooch. Let's just say it's 100 million 2 years in a row, so it's 50 a year. And I don't think it's that high, by the way, but let's just say it is. I think you just take it. I really do. I think you just take the loss, and I say, look, here's what you do: you take the loss. You draft a quarterback, and under that rookie contract, that's what you do. You absorb that loss with a rookie quarterback, which I mean, having a rookie quarterback is not working in Carolina personally. I know you're missing a receiver, but the defense playing as bad as they've been playing, the defense looks significantly better under Wilkes. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I looked at the number, sorry, but if you post June cut him next offseason, it's a $35 million cap hit for 2024, and it's an $18 million cap hit that'll be on there for 2025. So that's easily doable.
Yeah.
To even keep building a team around them. So they can do that. I wouldn't want to waste $53 million or whatever it is over those 2 years, but you can live with a $35 million and an $18 million cap hit for that. If what I'm seeing is correct here, if Gooch has something different on there, he can send it to me and I'll read it. But that's at least what I'm.
Let me just clarify that too. It's this off season. So after the season's over, you cut Russ and you take, what was it, 40 million this year and then 18 million next year?
Yeah, something like that.
107 million next year and 87. Okay. I didn't think I'm not saying, Gooch, by the way, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I think the numbers Keas had, I think it'd be more online. But if you know what, I mean, I would still do it. I really would. I would just get rid of him, and I would just. But here's the tricky part. Sean Payton has to be 100% convinced that the quarterback they got is their guy. You can't take Kirk Cousins. You can't get Jared Goff in a trade because you have Hendon Hooker waiting. You couldn't take. I'm trying to think of a backup who's capable. You would have to do something like maybe Trey Lance or Sam Darnold. You would have to get creative if you didn't draft a rookie quarterback. And with rookie quarterbacks, I mean, it is a crapshoot. I mean, it really, really is. I mean, there's all sorts of talk about Bryce Purdy. I think it's kind of a weird situation where it's a little bit of luck, a little bit of system, a little bit that he's got Kittle, McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel all surrounding him. But I don't care what the numbers are. I think if you realize that, hey, look, we can't win, and they're not winning with Russ, just take the loss and it may suck for a year or two. It may suck for a year or two, but I mean, you're what, 1-4 now, and you're getting ready to play Kansas City Thursday night at Arrowhead. And we're going to talk about that game because I know I got Keas on time constraints, so I definitely want to talk Chiefs and Broncos before Keas has to get off of here. Keas, Kansas City's 4-1. We play the Chargers next week. Chargers are 2-2. They had a bye. The Raiders won, so they're 2-3. Denver's 1-4. Okay. Chiefs lose this game. We're still in first place. We play the Chargers, which as of right now are the bigger threat. It's safe to say that this is a bigger game for Denver than it is for Kansas City. Do you agree here?
Yeah, I fully agree with that.
Yeah, so Denver's got a much more important game. They got a bigger game here. So we could say that Denver's going to come out like firing, like they're going to fake punts, going for it on fourth down. Like they're going to bring everything this week. We can safely assume that.
Yeah, I'm going to. I mean, we've seen it with teams that didn't even have, as much to lose now. This is what, week 1 with the Lions, we had a fake punt. In the Vikings game here, week 5, we had a fake punt. I'm trying to recall. I feel like Doug Peterson did 1 or 2 things like that, but I don't remember now. But yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say that teams are going to try to, steal a possession when they can, steal a first down when they can. Just, yeah.
Let's say this here, just hypothetically. Let's do the flip side here. Let's say Denver pulls out all the stops. Denver, contrary to popular belief, Denver last year played Kansas City tough, both games. I know at least one of them was really close. Let's say Denver wins, just hypothetically. What does that mean for the Chiefs? So, I'm going to come back Friday, and am I are you going to have to talk me off a ledge? I mean, what would happen?
Here's what I would say. And, it's kind of weird now because I've kind of made people mad bringing up the fact that Nathaniel Hackett has now taken 2 terrible quarterbacks, respective to what they've looked like, in their whole season or their whole career in Zach Wilson's case. but he's now done this in 2 consecutive seasons where he looked like viable starting NFL quarterbacks against our defense. You know, that's what last year was. Both games were really close games. You know, so I wouldn't say be on a cliff, because obviously, in my mind anyway, I don't think it's a stretch to say that for whatever you think about Sean Payton or whatever you think about Russ, that Sean Payton's a better coach than Nathaniel Hackett was, you know, for his 3/4 of the season, or, you know, whatever it was that he had as an NFL head coach. So, you know, if you want to say, yeah, but Evero is a way better defensive coordinator than Vance Joseph, and I would agree with that. But if you look at it, maybe that kind of makes it a toss-up that the Chiefs' offense is still right now a slow-burning work in progress. You know, we don't know if Travis is going to play or not. That's
no, we have no idea. We have no idea. I didn't even throw that into the equation. Let's say Travis isn't there, and because he's not there, every Chiefs fan wants to see more Taylor Swift. That's something all Chiefs fans agree upon. There's a lot of sarcasm there. Hopefully you guys caught that. So, you know, Travis, you know, I tried to say Travis Swift. I mean, how fucked up is that? I mean, you know, so Kelsey's not there. Taylor Swift's not there. The team looks off. Denver wins. And, you know, I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound a little crazy. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
It's really not. They're 4-2, and the next 3 opponents are going to be Chargers, Broncos, Dolphins. And if they win those 3 going into the bye at 7-2, I'm really happy. So even if they lose this game, I really don't care. I'm not going to be coming on Friday like I'm going to be mad. I'm going to be frustrated. Last Thursday I picked Washington. The Thursday before that I picked Green Bay. So this would be my 3rd consecutive Thursday night miss.
So you're picking Denver, right?
So you know what? Okay, so I have the Chiefs winning, but I have Denver covering at the time 10.5, and I didn't take a look at what the spread is before, because I think that because the Broncos have played Kansas City tough, I expect actually a close game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be, the line's 10.5. I think it'll be a single digit game. But I think the Chiefs are going to win. I just think Denver right now, Denver looks like a team that doesn't know how to win. And I get that they had that great comeback behind game against the Bears. Great job. Kudos. You know, you won on the road in the NFL, being down 28-7 in the 3rd quarter. Great. They look like a team that really doesn't know how to win right now. That's the way I look at them.
Which is weird to say when you have both a head coach and a quarterback who both have won a Super Bowl. But yeah, it's going to piss off Chiefs fans, yes, but in the long run, it's not really going to matter a whole lot. You know, it's just going to be one of those. It is fun to throw it in Broncos fans' faces, you know, 16 consecutive wins, you know, if it happens, or, you know, if we sweep them, you know, 17 consecutive wins, whatever. It's one of those fun things, you know, kind of retaliation for the whole Peyton Manning time in Denver. So, you know, but yeah, you know, either way, in the long run, I don't think it matters, because, you know, again, we have these kind of fluky losses each year. You know, there's a Colts loss last year, I believe, and like each year there's just like a loss that it shouldn't be. And it was almost the Jets game, and I thought it was going to be the Jets game before the game even started. But you know, at least we know they're not going to overlook Denver because it's a big divisional game. They know it's 15 straight. They know, you know, how much divisional games matter. But still, at the end of the day, it's not going to matter, you know, a whole lot. It might matter to you because you want the number 1 seed. You know, and to me right now, it's just like, you know, all you got to do is get a ticket to the dance, and that's really all that matters. At the end of the day, yeah, it would be being the number one seed again would be a nice luxury. And it's not that I wouldn't like it. It's just I'm not going to lose sleep over not getting it, if we don't get it. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't think it is going to matter a whole lot for Chiefs fans. For Denver fans, I think it would matter simply because it would end the whole streak thing, the whole streak talking.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, here's a drill. Jacksonville's 3-2, so if we lost, we would be 4-2, and we hold the tiebreaker. We are going to play Miami in a few weeks. I think it's 6 weeks. It may be 7. I don't have it memorized. We're going to play Buffalo, and we're going to play. We're going to play both Buffalo and Cincinnati. I mean, we'll have to figure out what Cincinnati is or isn't. We play them both at Arrowhead. Let's just say we lost on Thursday night. That gives us extra motivation to beat the Chargers, a game that I'm much more worried about. And then in 2 more weeks, when we travel to Denver, do you really think that Kansas City, if they lose at home, is going to lose? Are they really getting swept by Denver? The answer is no. I mean, if Denver wins now, they're not going to win at Mile High or whatever the fuck it is that they call themselves now. So I'm not really worried if they lose this game. It makes things a little more interesting in the AFC. It really does. But bottom line, it's not that big of a deal. This game means so much more to Denver than it does to Kansas City. So that's kind of why I think Denver covers. But when I look at the 2 teams here, I see one that's winning, one that's not, and that's kind of what I expect to happen Thursday.
By the way, Gooch did send me what he was looking at, and I think the difference is he's looking at Spot Track, and I'm looking at Over the Cap, and I'm using, Over the Cap has their little tool where you can look at the cut or trade or restructure, things, and you can do pre-June 1st and post-June 1st. And so, Spot Track, I don't think they have that tool. Maybe they do somewhere else. Yeah, I think they do, but it's somewhere else on their website. And so I think that's what Gooch is looking at is the dead cap number for each year. But if you post June 1st it's just that one number is being split over 2 seasons. So I think that's where we're getting the different numbers. If the if the Broncos were to pre June 1st cut Russ, that's where those numbers come in. So 2024, if they did a pre June 1st, it would be 85 million that they'd be swallowing right then and there, and then they would be done with it. Like okay. that would be it. But if they
you got Over the Cap,
yeah.
Because I have Sport Track saved, and as you were talking, I pulled that up. And here's the deal, and I might be wrong, but the 2023 season is to 107. So when the 2023 season ends, you're looking at the 2024 season, not the 2023 season. So then it would be 85 and 49.6. And let's just even if you have to lose 85 and you have to lose 49.6, which and I think you're right, Keys, with the pre and post June 1st designation. I still would do it. I would just you made a mistake. Just move on. And as a precedence, and it wasn't that much, and you got a first round pick in return. But when you got rid of Carson Wentz, you had to now keep in mind getting a guy like Jalen Hurts is a little lucky, but kudos to the Eagles, coaching staff for recognizing the talent. And then what happened after they got out of that cap? What did they do? They made a smart trade for a guy like A.J. Brown. And by the way, you have all your draft capital. So you get your quarterback, you can get rid of Wilson, and then in the 2025 draft, you can either maybe trade for a wide receiver, maybe you get one, You can get a little creative there, but regardless of the numbers, I still say you get rid of Russell Wilson. And I mean, unless you want to blame the defense. I mean, is this what Denver's going to do in the offseason? Say, well, we're going to get our fourth defensive coordinator in 4 years, because it's, we would be winning a Super Bowl if it wasn't for the defense. Is that what Denver's really going to do?
Well, I think regardless, they should get their fourth defensive coordinator in 4 years.
There's a lot of talent. I think there's a lot of talent, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did that. But I don't. I mean, look, you made a move and it didn't work. I would say you move on as quickly as possible.
I mean, you could always bring in Brandon Staley after he gets fired and have him be the defensive coordinator.
That makes a lot of sense. You know what? It's funny because I know you're saying that laughing, but if I'm Brandon Staley, I'm probably not getting another head coaching job. I would love to go to Denver and stick it up the Chargers' ass for at least two. So 2 games, you're going to have some fun. Maybe I don't see them beating Kansas City, but that. And by the way, that Walton Penner group may give Staley more money as a defensive coordinator than he's making as a head coach. I have no idea what his contract is as head coach, but I can't imagine he's one of the top 10 highest paid head coaches in the NFL. And if he is, then the Chargers organization is even worse than I thought. But so let me ask you this here, Keys, because if you go, my picks videos below. And I ask everybody who's watching to please check it out, put a comment in there. It would really help me out. But I'll spoil it for you. I have the Chiefs winning. I don't have them covering 10.5. And you know what? I'll do it while we're talking. I'll pull up what the line is. I think it's still 10.5. I don't think action's gone really one-sided either way. I think a lot of people think that 10.5 is a fair line. I didn't think it was really unusual, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought that it was, I think 10.5 is the number, and it's still 10.5. Keys, you're picking the Broncos to win this week?
Hey, and by the way, Staley's getting paid $4 million a year, so yeah, they could pay
that much as a defensive coordinator. It's. Do you remember Gunther Cunningham, when they brought him back as a defensive coordinator to make up for the way he was fired? They paid him more than what he made as a head coach.
Now my question would be is when did he sign that contract? Because they're also cheap, so they might just let him do, just complete his contract, and then I wouldn't, because you're still, again, you're with the Russ argument where you're wasting a year of Justin Herbert, but I mean, still, for as much as it's been Staley's fault, they've still had injury issues every year. But yeah, I'm not picking the Broncos in this game. Is that what the question was?
Yeah, I want to know what your prediction is, who's going to win, and if it's not too much to ask. Well, I know you don't do sports betting, so would you be able to throw out a possible score prediction?
Yeah, that's going to be hard. I would go with the under between Andy Reid and the refs. I kind of threw this out the other day, halfway joking, but in a lot of the games, it was, well, yeah. It seemed like the refs like to slow the Chiefs' offense down, with the exception of the Bears game, early on anyway, and kind of throttle them. But, this is hard. Because the Broncos have good running backs.
Devontae Williams is exceptional, and I know he's been a little banged up, but I really feel like if they made this offense revolve around Devontae Williams and less around Russell Wilson, I think they would be a lot better.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would feature the running backs and then, play action, and then you can let Russ throw those little raindrop kisses that fall down to only in such a way that only his receivers can. Just let him throw to Marvin Mims off of play action. Throw it deep, and I think you got a recipe for winning there. Run the ball, and play action deep passes to Marvin Mims. But have we heard anything about Nick Bolton playing? Do we know if he's
okay? So Nick Bolton was limited in practice, but he is practicing. So he's questionable for the game. He's questionable. Kelsey. So Bolton did practice, but he was limited. Kelsey did not. So now keep in mind Wednesday, it'll be a big deal. My guess right now is I think both Bolton and Kelsey are both going to play, but I think both are going to be limited. It wouldn't surprise me if Bolton comes out or starts the game and they quickly take him out and let Tranquil play quite a bit in this game. At least that's my impression. Or because it's a short week and we got the Chargers next week, it may be better suited to. I'm giving you answers on both sides.
Right.
Yeah, but Bolton did practice today.
I'm gonna assume that without a setback he plays, because you have 10 days off between Denver and the Chargers, and if you weren't expecting him to play, I don't even think you would let him practice to even be limited this week. I think you just say, hey, let's make sure you're 100%. There's 10 days, between Denver and LA, and you can just plan to come back for LA. So I'm going to take that as him coming back, but I do think you're right. And I think the Chiefs' hope is always that we have a big lead early and force teams away from the run. I think that's been their intentions. You've seen some of their defensive line moves have been made to where we go more pass rushers and a little lighter. And we've kind of gotten killed by that at times when we haven't gotten those leads, or, like we saw in the Jets game where we're out 17-0. And then the refs start doing stupid crap. Was that right? Was that the game where we got the flag for a horse collar tackle when it was actually our defensive player was being face masked by Breece Hall, right? Am I thinking
I believe so. I do know that Vikings fans and that dickless people. I was going to say some mean things here, but I'm not going to say who it is. But some crap. This pissed me off because some Vikings fans had the nerve to blame the refs for losing that game. Hey, the refs didn't have Kevin O'Connell call 3 timeouts in the third quarter. The refs didn't injure Justin Jefferson. The Chiefs, without looking at exactly, the Chiefs had 10 penalties. And Andy Reid coach team getting 10 penalties on the road while your team gets 4 or 5. I think the exact number was 10 and 5. And the penalty yardage more than doubled for the Chiefs, but the referees gave you the game. All right, I'm not questioning Justin Jefferson's toughness. I'm not, but Jefferson got hurt and Kelsey got hurt. Kelsey wasn't 100%. Yeah, he was able to come back. Justin Jefferson wasn't. To blame the refs for that loss is just the dumbest, weakest piece of shit move you can make. You were outcoached. Your best player got hurt. 2-1 penalty yardage in penalty calls. What else do you want? But the 3 timeouts in the third quarter, that was just being out coached by Andy Reid, especially the last one where the Chiefs are on their own 47. I think it was 47, 4th and 1.5, maybe it was 2, and they lined up to go for it on 4th down. Then after the Vikings called the timeout, they punted. And me and you saw that completely, Keys, didn't we? Like, we knew that was just Andy Reid just saying, hey, look, we're going to take one of your timeouts.
Yeah. And again, all I'm saying is making an observation in that Jets game. We were up 17-0. Mm-hmm. And then you started to see some really weird, like I said, that one is blatant. Like, you can't argue it. They threw a flag for a horse collar, and I forget who the defensive player was. It wasn't a horse collar, and the running back, I believe it was Breece Hall, someone we both really like, was face masking the defender who got the phantom horse collar penalty.
I remember that play. I want to tell you it was Justin Reed, because Justin Reed, if I remember, didn't Justin Reed tackle him from the front? And if it's the same play I'm thinking of, because I didn't think that was even a horse collar if you tackled a player from the front, and I don't think it is, but it's that same play. But no, it wasn't a horse collar.
And that put the Jets back into the game, and I think I'm getting way off of whatever we were talking about.
I know I'm mad that Vikings fans were blaming the refs for losing that game. That set me off when I saw that. And I sent you that, and I also sent that to One Pride, because if you're a Vikings fan, I don't know how you can watch that game and go, oh, if there was if the refs didn't give the game to Kansas City, we would have won. How the fuck are you 1-3 and expect to beat Kansas City when your best player goes down? How the fuck is that? Okay, I'm getting.
But I mean, on top of that, though, you have a point, because it was Kansas City had 10 penalties for, I want to say 92 yards, almost 100 yards, and I want to say Minnesota had like 4.
Yeah,
for like
I remember
35.
right. It was like 5 penalties for like 30 yards. It was something ridiculous.
And Kansas City has been the 7th most penalized team in the NFL. This is going to the whole the refs are rigging it for the Chiefs. They've been called for 33 penalties this season, which is 7th most in the NFL. Their opponents have been called for 23 penalties, which is 28th in the NFL. So Chiefs have been called for 7th most in the NFL. The people they're playing against have been called for 23, which is 28th in the NFL. And that is the league rigging it for the Chiefs.
Yeah, you can't make this shit up. You can't make this shit up. If you're a Vikings fan, and let's say you're a Vikings fan, and you tell me, hey, you know what? Justin Jefferson's 100%, we win that game. I don't agree with that, but I'd be like, you know what? He's the best receiver in football. He's easily the best player on your team. He opens things up for Addison, who's a rookie, who's now your number 2. Now he's your number 1. KJ Osborne, every time I've watched him play, he drops a pass in a game. If you were to say, God, build me a wide receiver, he's built like KJ Osborne. I think he's like 6'1", 6'2", 205, runs, I think, a 4.3 something. He drops a pass in every single game I watch him play in. I get it. If you tell me Justin Jefferson, if you say, hey, look, Justin Jefferson's 100%, he plays the whole game, we beat Kansas City. I don't agree with you, but I get that. But you're going to blame the refs when you were out-coached. You got an advantage penalty-wise and yardage-wise. And not only that, you also had Travis Kelce go down. I mean, what else could you want? But,
yeah, and
I'm
with you. I would kind of get the argument, but then when you look at the bigger picture, L'Jarius Sneed going up against Jefferson had 3 targets. He had 2 receptions for a grand total of 14 yards. And that wasn't just a Justin Jefferson thing. L'Jarius Sneed has been matched up against teams' number 1 wide receivers the last 4 weeks. So starting with the Jags game, Calvin Ridley.
He's gonna be expensive.
He's getting paid, or he might get tagged. You never know. Maybe.
Oh God, I would. I mean, the Chiefs defense has been doing some really good things.
He's been doing what he needs to do to get paid, because Calvin Ridley had 5 targets, 2 receptions, 32 yards. Moore had 4 targets for 1 reception and 3 yards in the Bears game. Garrett Wilson had 6 targets for 3 receptions, 24 yards. And then again, I already said what Justin Jefferson got with his 3 targets, 2 receptions, and 14 yards. So 44% catch rate, and only allowed 17 yards after catch on 8 receptions.
I probably shouldn't admit this, but I didn't like it when we drafted him. I was not a fan, even though it was a 4th round pick. I didn't like the pick. There was somebody else. I can't remember who it was, but I remember not liking that pick. There was like 2 or 3 other players in the 4th round, and I remember really not liking that pick. because there was another player at Louisiana Tech who they really wanted to play corner, and they told L'Jarius Sneed, they said, look, we need to get more corners. We're going to move you to safety. And I said, listen, if you got a guy who's capable of playing corner in the NFL and you're not a Power 5 school, why are you moving him to safety? It's a bad move. I don't like the draft pick, and he's been playing awesome. The answer is no. I will not notice. So Keas is saying Chiefs 56, Broncos -3 is what I'm going to guess.
How do you even score -3?
Russell Wilson will find a way. He will do it.
Is that like the old play where you turn around and you run the run? No, because that would just be a safety. Yeah.
So there's another channel that had a picks video, and a guy put in because the Bills played the Giants on Sunday night, and that game looks like a stinker. But a guy he put Bills, I think it was Bills 56, Giants nothing, and I was like, unfortunately, that might happen.
I'm gonna go, man. This is hard because.
Let me ask you this here: would it be easier if we just do point spread? I mean, it's 10.5. Right, so the Chiefs would have to win by 11 or more to cover the spread. Does Kansas City cover the spread?
I initially said no, but I do think the more I think about this, unless we see Vance Joseph's best game plan ever, or Sean Payton has just completely been holding back, and it's for all the making fun of Russ and all the Russ talk, it's not like he hasn't looked good at times this season, especially
against the second half against the Bears. He looked exceptional,
especially when he connects with Marvin Mims.
When they do what you said, when they run the ball first and then go play action pass,
right.
That's what Denver's offense should be. And the only time they really did that was in the second half against the Bears. But if they became a run-first team, which is not what Sean Payton wants to do, and then go deep, you can be successful. And that's the only way Denver would win this game is Javonte Williams would have to get about 30 touches, and he would have that. When I say big game, I'm not talking 150, 200 yards. I mean, no turnovers, like 3rd and 2 gets the first down. So, I mean, he could have like 27 carries, 85 yards, and still have a big game.
I think the interesting thing in this game will be because Travis is our leading, he's our main guy. Patrick Surtain kind of gets wasted in this game because who's he going to go up against? He's not going to guard Travis. And even when Travis is 100%, even, a lockdown corner can't guard him. We saw him embarrass Derwin James, multiple times. We've seen him embarrass top cornerbacks as well.
I don't wonder if they put Simmons on him.
I mean, they could do that, but my point is, Surtain's going to get wasted in this game. Who are they going to put him up against? Tony? How many snaps is Tony going to get? My guess would be that Andy makes it so that the receiver that kind of dictates where Surtain is in this game, and then make sure that receiver, is the 4th or 5th read anyway. So Surtain is completely taken out of the picture. Is what I would expect to see. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but you're probably right on Simmons, especially when Travis isn't 100%. So then it's going to be up to what? Rashee Rice? Jerick McKinnon might have his big game. I heard him talking about, getting his touches the other day. They got to come at some point. I'm kind of the belief that Sky Moore is kind of being hidden intentionally right now, so that they can get those young guys incorporated into the offense in some of those roles that they can't do. And then we didn't even talk about 2 fantastic, absolutely amazing catches by Justin Watson in the Vikings game. What role is he going to play in this?
He did have two. I was really mad that he had that drop that hit him like right in the chest. That frustrated. He had that fantastic catch, and then he had that drop. I think that hit the. There's you got that 8. I think the ball hit him right in the hole where the 8 is. I think and that made me mad. But still, he's still developing. Yeah, talented kid.
So I'm gonna pick the over. I think that Sean Payton and Vance Joseph would have to have just absolutely superb games, game plans for this one. Like you said, that would feature the run game first. Get that play action. The reality is they would kind of need the Jets offense from that game.
Yeah.
It's kind of a similar path, although I would take Sauce and Michael Carter and Reed a little bit over the Broncos corners. But, I don't know. I could see this maybe being like a 38-16 game. They get a touchdown and a few field goals in there.
Well, I'm kind of hoping that. I'll be honest. I really don't want an exciting game. I'm kind of hoping it's a boring blowout, and I'll just be trying to find it out, trying to do things to say. And by the way, I haven't set up the live stream yet, but I'll have the live stream set up tomorrow. So join me live as I do play-by-play and reaction. And Keys is predicting a blowout. I think it's going to be a close game. Keys says bet your life savings on the Chiefs covering 11. So that
was your life savings, not theirs. Don't bet your own money. Always bet Dan's money. That's the safe way to do it.
Well, I'll tell you what. On that note, unless anybody's got any final thoughts or questions, I'll kind of wrap this show up a little early. There was some injuries that I did want to point out real fast. In case you haven't heard, Devin, I think everybody's been getting his name wrong because I've been calling it A-Chain, but I think it's Archin, something like that. But anyway, the Miami Dolphins star rookie running back, he's out. He's on injured reserve. Or no, I'm sorry. He's not on injured reserve, but he's going to miss, it looks like at least 2 games. That's maybe not a big loss depending on how you look at it. Van Jefferson is now with the Falcons. There's one other injury. Anthony Richardson's not going to play this week. He's not on injured reserve. There's one other big injury that I am completely whiffing on, and I apologize. I can't think of who it is, but kind of get everybody caught up here. There are some injuries that have been going on in the NFL. A lot of times it's not who has the best roster, it's who's healthiest. And when the Chiefs get a Minshew back after week 6, rest of you guys may want to watch out. The Chiefs defense could be even better, and it's been playing pretty damn good as it is. So I will be live Thursday night. Keys, before we get out of here, man, you have any final thoughts, words, comments, statements, questions?
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna leave. I feel like Gooch and Luke always have like the most profound things to say, but I'm not even gonna try to top them. Just a constant reminder to everyone, no matter where your team is at, right? You got to take every week as it is, any given Sunday, throw out all those cliches, because cliches are cliches because there's truth behind them. 5 weeks doesn't make a season. 16 weeks, it much more makes the season. 5 weeks doesn't, though. And so, and the last thing I'll say is that we seem to get backwards. And yes, we were talking about the Chiefs looking at 16 straight games, and stats like that, records like that, those are descriptive. They describe what has happened. They're not determinative. It doesn't mean it's what's going to happen this time. So that's my big thing, because we do get caught up on it. And especially those of us who are Chiefs fans, because we're starting to accumulate a lot of those things, right? Like Andy Reid's record, heading into week 1, or Andy Reid's record heading into a bye, or the Chiefs record against the Broncos since Obama was in office, or this or that. Like there's all these all these different things. And I even saw, some today about, I don't have it with me. I forgot where I had it somewhere, but I lost it. Teams that start out 0-3, have like this percentage of making the playoffs, and
it's a very small percentage. It's something crazy.
The crazy thing was, and I forget what the exact stat was, but of the teams that start 5-0 over like the last 10 years or so, I think back to 2008 or something like that, only like 4 of them have made the Super Bowl. So
really? Oh, wow.
You don't necessarily want to be the 49ers or Eagles right now. Like, there's no guarantee. Like, you're better off being 4-1, But again, that goes back to, that's describing what has happened in the past. It doesn't mean if you get to 5-0, your team is screwed and it's not going to make the Super Bowl, And so that was kind of my warning. But yeah, that's about all I can say.
No, I thought it was a great final statement, man. It was a great. I don't have anything profound at all. Just I will be on Thursday night. Tune into YouTube to get my play-by-play and reaction, and I'll still be back on Friday. So don't forget. And tomorrow I will release my NFL Power Rankings video, which instead of Monday, I'm switching to Wednesday. So that will be out tomorrow. Hopefully you check it out. In the description below is my picks video. Guys, have a good night. And I hope to see everybody back on Thursday.